glutenin and gliadin, those two proteins, we don't have some people don't have the enzyme to to synthesize gluten, to metabolize it, just like um, the same way that some people are lactose intolerant because they don't have the they're not able to break down that protein. The same with people that have gluten intolerance.
Mm-hmm.
And when you cannot break down the protein, what happens is that your intestine, the little hairs that are inside your small intestine that absorb nutrients, get basically plows down, so it gets flat. So the more that if somebody that knows that is allergic or intolerant to gluten keeps eating gluten, eventually that it will destroy the villi, and then won't be able to absorb nutrients through that. And what happens eventually is that the intestine becomes permeable. You know, the intestine walls are semi-permeable, right? Allow things to go in, but doesn't allow things to come in into the intestine. But when that villi gets damaged, it goes both ways. It becomes permeable, so it allows some impurities from your digestive system might seep into your intestine, and that's when it's called leaky gut. So, you know, many symptoms. I don't know if you have ever experienced like bloating, or some people experience bloating, lightheadedness, or you like might get really tired through the day. All those might be sometimes due to some sort of intolerance of food. And the only way to do it is to cut back on it. And because there is no medication invented for that, the only way to do it is changing the diet. So consequently, what I'm saying also is that a lot of carbs also makes us gain weight, and sometimes things with gluten also lead to inflammation. Like your joints might hurt, your knees or your hands, you know, all that. And some of the unfortunate, a lot of doctors, it's really hard to diagnose because not a lot of people are trained to treat that. It's kind of like, it's crazy, really, because it's something that about like 30% of people suffer from, you know, and that percentage is going up every time because more and more and more people are finding out that they have some sort of intolerance, some sort of allergy to food. So yeah, I mean, you know, if I don't know if you have ever experienced any of that stuff, that you might go to the doctor and they go like, all your blood tests are fine, and you know, we don't know what it is. Or if you have experienced some symptoms that you're like questioning any chance. Have you have any?
I don't think I personally experienced it, but I know for, you know, so you know I still work at a private school, and there's plenty of allergies, and large amounts of them have these problems. And I think a lot of the parents are taking the initiative to automatically, once they see there's something wrong with their child, they're taking the initiative to order the gluten-free meals, to cut back and just see if the child reacts in a different way. Yes, there's some kids who are diagnosed, they have celiac disease, but there are also parents who take that step just to say, you know what, let's try this. And the school, you know, we acknowledge that, and we make sure that's part of our diet or on our menus.
And so you feeling like they just doing it because they're assuming.
Some are assuming they see something wrong with their child, and maybe, like you said, it wasn't diagnosed. But this can be something where they're trying it just to see what happens. And some are doing it as, some might do it as a fad, or some might be doing it as a way to lose weight or maintain their weight.
Yeah.
And these are students we're talking about. So that usually comes from the parent. You know?
Yeah. I think also that's driven by a lot of, there is a lot of information, or sometimes misinformation online, where they attribute a lot of things to gluten. Sometimes it's valid and sometimes it's confusing. And parents, you know, they're kids, right? So they get alarmed and they go to the first thing that they know how. But it can be any other things. It might be, one thing I know is that some kids might be allergic to things in the early ages and eventually passes, you know, but it doesn't hurt to be on the lookout for sure. Because, you know, another thing that is not proven, it hasn't been proven, is there is a lot of hypotheses that it might also affect HDD and HDHD, I'm sorry, and learning disabilities, etc. And even having said that for people with like autistic, it might be damaging to them, but it's not scientifically proven yet. So again, it's kind of like one of the things that, what do you say to a parent, right? It's like you have to kind of, especially in your position, you have to go with what they feel like they have to do, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. Welcome.
Well, hello.
Hi. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having this class or information session.
Yeah. Hi, Nerissa. Good morning. Great having you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here. And again, you know, this is about some time for us to discuss, to also ask me anything, whatever questions you might have. Today, I decided to do the, I was planning to do the gluten topic. And we were talking with Mr. Tomlinson here, and he was just expressing how some parents might have concerns sometimes about, you know, some symptoms that they might see in their kids, but also I know for sometimes we as adults, we might go through some aches and probably, you know, bloating and joint pain and things such as, and sometimes we don't know what it is. We go to a doctor and we go, and they cannot pinpoint exactly where it's coming from. And all your labs might be fine and everything might be, you know, checked in order, but still they cannot pinpoint. So a lot of times it's related to what we eat. I would say most times it's related to what we eat. You know, in nutrition, we call this the gut your second brain, because it's got kind of like a function of its own. And oddly enough, majority of the chronic diseases start in the gut. You know, it has to do something with absorption. We might have some sort of intolerance that we don't know about it. And the only way to find out is to start cutting back on those offender foods and as an elimination diet, and then kind of like try to walk back and see if that was what was hurting us. And you know, and that goes also with like you know, things like arthritis. Sometimes arthritis is inflammation. If we have problems like, you know, absorbing nutrients or losing weight or gaining weight, All those factors might be due to some sort of usually malabsorption or something that is out of balance in our digestive system. The good news is that we can work it out. The good news is that we can change that that pattern, right? We can change that pattern by changing our life habits. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's the good stuff. Is that your system will regenerate us if we allow it to. Because by changing certain things in your diet or your lifestyle, your body starts to the cells start to regenerate and start to fix itself. That's the beauty of the human body, is that it's able to most times overcome stuff. Unless it's chronic, then that's another story. But there is a preventive way of fixing things. So I don't know if you have any questions. And I was talking to Amra, and he was asking me some stuff, and we were talking about some factors in the gluten. But if you have any questions, anybody has any issues that you might be questioning where it's coming from, I would love to answer your questions.
Well, I found something interesting what you just said. How long does it take for your cells to regenerate when you omit the gluten?
Okay, so when you omit the gluten, great question, thank you. When somebody that has gluten intolerance and eats gluten, what happens is that it damages your small intestine in a way that we all have small hairs in your small intestines, right? That is called villi. And those small hairs in the small intestine helps to absorb nutrients. That's where everything goes into your bloodstream. They come in through the villi, and they go into your bloodstream, and that's how you get nutrients out of the food. When you eat gluten, let's say you're gluten intolerant, you keep eating gluten, because you don't have the enzyme to break down the gluten, those villi, those little hairs start to get damaged. And eventually they start to die. And then the walls of your small intestine become flat. But then when they become flat, that's when somebody might develop something that's called leaky gut, which is that, and again, I'm always amazed at how your body, our human body works, because it's designed in a way, your small intestine is designed in a way that allows nutrients to go into the bloodstream, but doesn't allow anything to come into the small intestine. So when that becomes flat, it becomes permeable, meaning that it allows things to go in and go out. So, if you have some sort of impurity going into your blood system, it goes right into your digestive system, and then it makes you sick. And the more that you don't pay attention to it, the more that you keep eating gluten knowing that you should not, the more it might lead to chronic illnesses down the line. So that's how, gluten damages your entire, and that's what I'm saying is that most times your digestive system is where a lot of illnesses start. It's just I don't want to be so dramatic, but it can lead to cancer in the stomach and lead to things like that. So if you know that you cannot eat gluten, you shouldn't. Not even the occasional, because we all go through. You say, oh, I'm gonna cheat this Sunday, and I'm just gonna have, so and so, and yeah, sure, but eventually that will make its way to not allowing your system to regenerate, and that's what I'm talking about. When you stop eating gluten, you have the chance of allowing those villi to start growing back out. The fact that it gets flattened doesn't mean that it's dead, because your cells are still there. It's like a plant. You know, if you still have the roots of the plant, right, and you take care of it, and you put water in it, and you put a little bit of fertilizer, whatever it is, it's going to start growing back out. The same thing happens with your organism. So if you allow it to, your body will regenerate. But we all need to do some changes, you know. And I always say that the changes that we do should be gradual, like should be in small increments. Because, you know, if I tell myself, oh, you cannot have gluten at all right now, for the rest of your life, I'll freak out. I'll be like, oh my God, you know, what am I gonna do? But if I start slowly changing my lifestyle, and it might take me a little while, but eventually those habits stick more than the ones that we do all of a sudden.
Yeah.
That's why I always encourage people to take their time. You know, we like with whatever life-changing habit we might be setting ourselves to do. You know, it's like short, long-term goals, right? It's like, you know, one of those one thing at a time type of thing. And the same goes, you know, that's why I think in the past we also talked about diets, right? And I mean, like a gluten-free diet is very challenging, but at the same time, it's doable. And again, you know, doing small changes gradually, not saying I'm gonna cut cold turkey starting tomorrow and I'm never gonna eat certain things. So those things don't stick.
No.
Yeah, and that goes with everything, right? Like, you know, exercise and like, you know, getting up in the morning and doing certain, like going out for a walk, or you might do it 3 times a week to begin with. You might do it once a week to begin with, and that's okay. You know, and then eventually you go to twice, 3 times, 4 times in a matter of months, not days or weeks. And that's when we start building up better habits, I feel. And by experience, you know, that's how I help my clients when I start doing things little by little, you know, and they don't feel so overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Now, do you know that there are many, I would say about like 100% of vegetables and besides some grains, but a lot of natural food out there is gluten-free.
Yes, but my problem has always been grains. So you know, finding grain alternatives that are gluten-free.
Right.
That's a little more difficult.
And there are a few, you know, like quinoa is gluten-free, amaranth, rice is gluten-free, amaranth, quinoa, buckwheat, teff is also gluten-free. You can
What
make
is that, teff?
Teff, T-E-F-T. Actually, Ethiopian food, when they serve the food, they give you teff bread, which is flat. It's really delicious. It's a little sour, but it's really good, and it's gluten-free. So that you have, you know, that's the thing, right? We have options.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's about thinking of what I can eat and not what I cannot eat. That I think we change that perspective and start thinking, you know, oh, so I can eat all this stuff, instead of saying, oh, I cannot eat certain things. And when we change that perspective, it's a lot easier, because we see it on the positive side. So yeah, but the grains, and it's crazy, but sometimes some people are allergic to grains altogether.
Rice, and I can't eat too much rice. I get the swelling, and the stomach hurts if I eat the rice. So I know I can't.
May I ask you what type of rice it is?
For the most part, any rice, like white
Okay.
rice, jasmine rice, basmati rice, like any of those rice,
Mm-hmm.
they affect my stomach. And they like the next day I feel like I have a little bit of pain
Mm-hmm.
in my body.
Yeah, that's another amazing thing, right? We are not all built equally. I mean, like metabolic speaking, some things that might be good for me, not good for you, and for the next person. We all have our unique way of functioning in that way.
Yeah.
So that's why, diets cannot be all one size fits all, and they have to be personalized, and they need to be adjusted to your needs.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's a great question, though. Yeah. You might be able to not eat it for, if you stop eating rice for about 4 weeks, maybe 6, I would say, and then reintroduce it little by little and see if that affects you. If not, it's something else. That's also how you can gauge it and see if it's really the rice. I mean, if not, and a lot of times it's how they process the rice nowadays. It's so many factors.
I have to say, like, I eat it all the time, but I would say every so often I'll have some, but I know what's coming. Mm-hmm. But I do once in a while, like, have so the other thing too, like with bread alternatives for gluten, like I don't always find in my neighborhood what I want, right, for my bread alternative, but I have been finding the glutino, but I find with that is high in sodium.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's the case with a lot of the prepackaged stuff, since I just eat a lot of vegetables, but I know with that, I can't eat it all the time because it's high in sodium.
Yeah, that is so sometimes with gluten-free, because I was explaining to Ambra before that gluten has 2 proteins. One is elastin and the other is called glutamine. So that gives the elasticity to the bread, right? That it makes it chewable, it makes it like nice and comfortable to eat. But when it's gluten-free, they need to add some other stuff in order to make it have the same effect as if it had gluten. Sometimes it has a lot of sugar. Sometimes it might have a lot of sodium. Sometimes they add like xanthan gum. What else? Yeah, xanthan gum is very common. So anyway, and so that's why sometimes they have a lot of sodium or a lot of sugar in it. I found one product though that is called you can get it online, but it's also in the farmers market. It's called the gluten-free bakery, and you can look it up online. And that is, to me, the closest to regular bread that I have found. And I mean, I'm not myself intolerant to gluten. My wife is, and so by default, like everything in this house, it has to be gluten-free. So if I want to eat like a slice of pizza once in a while, I have to go far away from my. But it's something I need to do, right? But I'm familiar with all the gluten-free products because that's what we consume here at home. And so for me, the gluten-free bakery products, and I'm not advertising, I don't get paid by them. I'm just sharing with you that that's probably the closest that I found to regular bread. Yeah. And that's what I buy now because like I miss that, because sometimes like the udis have like taste like if you are eating air.
So true. Yes,
yeah. Yeah. Thank you for those questions. And thank you, Nerissa. And do you have any questions for me?
Well, I don't have permanent issues, but I started gluten-free when I was in pain. I had the spinal fusion surgery, And Dr. Klemenko recommended that I, do gluten-free foods because, it's gluten is inflammation, inflammation is pain. And that's how I started, and it really helped. And I did notice when I do have gluten, it's like this mucus come up to my throat and I, phlegm. And so this is how I discover. So I don't know if I'm gluten intolerance or like even if I have cheese, even non-dairy cheese, it would happen. So I try to limit my stuff, but I have a problem. I'm a sweet tooth person, so I love pastries, and I have the regular pastries, and it's gluten, all wheat, and I know it's not good for me, and they really don't taste good. So I will cheat and I say I limit myself. I'll have it, but not a lot. So that's how I deal with it. And I would like to be able to do my own little baking, gluten free, and for it to taste good. So I know there's a chickpea flour, there's a rice flour, there's the almond flour, but I don't know what I'm doing, but it doesn't really taste good to me. So I just limit myself. So I'd like to find, flour ingredients that I can put together, bake, and it tastes palatable. That's my thing.
Yes. So here we go. That when there are flours that are 100% gluten free. You have almond flours, which is the mostly that is used for baking.
Yes.
And also you have coconut flour,
Mm-hmm.
and you have chickpea flour, but it gives a weird taste, right? You can also use rice flour.
Okay.
The thing with that, when you bake, you need to mix it a little bit because the almond flour it's almost very grainy. Actually, it won't taste the same. What I would say is that I would recommend, there is a flour out there that was made by this woman that, if you know who Thomas Keller is, from Per Se, his pastry chef made this flour that is called 1-to-1, 1-to-1 cup. There you go. In the chat, I put it on. And she made a perfect mixer for baking.
Oh.
And so you can use it as, like if you will use all-purpose flour, and you can do your baking through that.
Oh.
Because otherwise you will have to, or when you do your baking, you can look for recipes with almond flour in it.
Okay.
But the 1-to-1 cup works great. If you just get any recipe of baking and then you use that flour instead of using the regular flour,
okay,
you'll be fine. And there are some bakeries out there that are carrying gluten-free products that are no grain also. So, but yeah, if you want to do your own baking, I think that would be the way to go.
But a lot of them really don't taste good. Even bread. I'm not really a big bread person, and I started with UD bread, and that tastes good. And I'm now trying the Ezekiel bread, the one with the sesame seeds. So that's what I'm limited to, but it's my sweet tooth that's the problem, because the stuff, they don't taste good.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I totally agree. Especially, I like my sweets also once in a while, and I feel that yeah, it's different, and it's really, you can taste that it's not gluten free. But if you bake your own stuff with this mix, that will make a difference.
Okay, I'll try that. Thank you.
Yeah. Or almond cookies.
Yes, I've tried that because I got that in Whole Foods, that some little almond cookies, but nothing tastes good to me, so I just limit myself.
Like try when you do use almond flour, try to do like, I think it's like 3 parts of almond flour, and you can do 1 part arrowroot.
Oh yes, I know about arrowroot.
Right, and that root will give a little bit of the elasticity to it.
Oh, so it's good to do a mixture then. So,
Yes. Yeah,
okay,
yeah, yeah,
thank you.
yeah. And when you use, if you ever use coconut flour, go 1 quart of coconut flour per cup of regular flour because it's crazy. It absorbs a lot of water, a lot of moisture. It's like, it's gonna, once it grows some volume on the liquid that you put in.
Oh, I
If that
see.
makes any sense, because it's like, it
I've used
absorbs a lot of water.
I've used the coconut sugar, but not the flour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, it's super dense.
Okay, okay, I'll try that. Thank you.
Well, I hope to, have you here whenever you can on Saturday mornings.
Okay,
Because we will be touching on other different
topics.
themes or
Yeah.
topics. So, yeah, happy that you could make it.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry I missed the first class. It was about sugar, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah,
Said, no, I don't want to join that class.
yeah.
It defeats the purpose. So when I saw the gluten, I said, okay, I better join. It won't hurt.
Well, welcome to
Thanks so
have,
much. Yes.
more, every other Saturday we'll be here.
Okay, yes,
And
I see
yeah,
there's another class.
so,
Interesting.
yeah, you're welcome. And so I'm coming close to like a little after 10. So if you have any other questions, I would like to hear 'em.
Yes,
So,
I'm good.
okay, good. Well, you can always reach out to me, and I have a website, and I'm gonna put in the chat. And I am also preparing. I'm preparing also a seminar. It's all gonna be about gluten, and I'm gonna share some recipes and cooking techniques, and also I will that will include like a 30-minute consultation with me. And please, feel free to invite your friends and your family and anybody that you think that might benefit from this. But you can also, reach out to me at any time. And that's my website and that's my email that I put on
Okay.
the chat. Awesome. Okay, great. Thank you for being here.
Thank
And
you.
Ambra, it's great seeing you. It really
Much,
is.
I appreciate the information.
Yeah, sure, please. And if you want to talk more about any concerns, reach out to me. We can have a conversation, please.
Will do. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Great
Take
seeing you.
care. Great seeing you. Have a
Thank
great day,
you so
Nerissa.
Yeah,
Bye,
thank
Kathy.
you. Bye
Bye,
bye.
everyone.
Bye.